To me, a perfect 10 out of 10 game is one that completely consumes you. One that you can't stop thinking about even when you're not playing. If I finish a single-player campaign and I'm not sitting there in silence staring at the credits, processing what I just experienced, it's just not a masterpiece in my opinion. But hey, the 30 games you're about to see on this list stand above the rest. This is the collection that cuts through the noise and delivers those pure, flawless solo adventures that you absolutely must experience. Let's begin with God of War Ragnarok. You know how some sequels play it safe? Ragnarok does the opposite. It takes everything that worked before and cranks it up to 11. The story picks up with Kratos and a teenage Atreus facing down the entire Norse pantheon, and the tension is palpable in every scene. The performances are Oscar-worthy stuff. Odin and Thor are terrifying, not because they are loud, but because they are so well written. It is a sprawling epic that manages to keep its heart, delivering emotional punches that land just as hard as the physical ones. It's a narrative ride that grabs you and doesn't let go until the final moment. Gameplay-wise, it is a significant upgrade. The pacing is smoother, the puzzles are smarter, and the combat loop is addictive. You are constantly switching between the Leviathan axe and the Blades of Chaos, and the flow of battle feels like a deadly dance. The enemy variety was a complaint in the last game, but they fixed it big time here. You will be fighting everything from massive beasts to nimble warriors that demand perfect timing. It encourages you to explore every corner, and the rewards are always worth it. If you have a PlayStation, this isn't just recommended, it is essential playing. Black Myth: Wukong. I have honestly never been so blown away and frustrated at the same time. This game is an ambitious powerhouse that brings the legend of the Monkey King to life with jaw-dropping detail. The environments are dense and atmospheric, from snowy mountains to deep forests that react to your movement. The story might leave you scratching your head if you don't know the source material, but the spectacle is undeniable. It feels like a grand adventure in the truest sense, even if the tech is barely holding it together at times. What really sells it for me is the sheer variety in your toolkit. You aren't just swinging a stick, you are transforming into bosses you have defeated, using their own moves against enemies. The resource management is tight, forcing you to balance your mana and focus meter carefully during long fights. It is tough, no doubt about it, but it never feels unfair since you keep your gear and XP after dying. The technical gremlins like falling through the floor are annoying, but the core loop is so strong that it sticks with you. Ghost of Tsushima. To me, a great game is one that nails the vibe perfectly, and Ghost of Tsushima is a masterclass in atmosphere. Sucker Punch created a version of feudal Japan that is just breathtaking, filled with falling leaves, rolling thunderstorms, and vibrant flower fields. The story hits hard, focusing on Jin's desperate struggle to repel an invasion led by a ruthless Mongol general. It handles the transition from honorable samurai to the terrifying ghost with some serious emotional weight. I also have to mention the sound design, because the shift from quiet flutes to thundering war drums during battles gets your heart racing every single time. The combat in this game absolutely slaps. It borrows bits from Batman and Sekiro, but blends them into something that feels crunchy and unique. You aren't just mashing buttons here. You have to switch between 4 distinct stances mid-fight to break enemy defenses, and when you get the flow down, you feel unstoppable. The standout mechanic is the standoff, where you challenge enemies to a duel and cut them down in one stroke. It is incredibly satisfying. While the stealth can be a bit basic and the AI isn't the smartest, the swordplay is so good that you won't even care. There is a lot here to dive into. Cyberpunk. This game is a stunning Rorschach test, not a Rubik's Cube. The fact that the story can be shorter than expected is actually its strength, forcing you into a massive web of side missions that deeply impact the ending. Night City is dense, diverse, and consistently beautiful, from the corporate towers to the dusty desert outskirts. Johnny Silverhand is a wonderfully dislikable jackass, and his relationship with V is the emotional anchor that sells the whole cyberpunk aesthetic. You won't feel that wow of a new area, but you will constantly be stumbling upon unexpected sights within this urban jungle. The character build system is wonderfully flexible and constantly rewarding. There's no rigid class. You invest points into attributes like cool and intelligence, then specialize with perks. This lets you seamlessly mix and match styles, like slowing time to dodge, and then swapping to mantis blades for a savage melee attack. It feels crunchy, visceral, and gives you complete control over the choreography. I also love how iconic weapons are handled. You get a crafting recipe to keep your favorite katana or unique pistol relevant throughout the whole campaign. It's a technical mess right now, but the strength of the stories and player agency are so powerful that I can't help but recommend it. Elden Ring. In my experience, few games manage to inspire near constant awe like this one. The sheer scope of the lands between is intimidating in the best way possible. You are thrown into this massive map with zero guidance, and yet I never felt lost or fatigued. Instead of boring fetch quests, you find organic stories by meeting characters naturally in the world. Visually, it is a stunner, with vistas that look like paintings and terrifying enemy designs that will haunt your dreams. It balances total freedom with curated challenges perfectly. Combat is top tier, offering more freedom than From Software has ever given us before. You can summon spirits to help draw aggro, craft items on the fly, or use the new jump attack to break enemy stances. The enemy variety is weapons-grade nightmare fuel, forcing you to learn patterns rather than just twitch react. It is hard, often brutally so, but the game gives you so many tools to win that it always feels fair. The sense of discovery paired with the crunchy, lethal combat creates a loop that is impossible to put down. It is one that sticks with you. The Last of Us Part 1. Let's be real, this is one of the biggest boppers in the PlayStation pantheon for a reason. The game takes a legendary story and gives it a next-gen facelift that is astonishing to look at. The dust motes dancing in the light and the rain dripping off Joel's gear stop you in your tracks. It is a darker, more intimate experience than the sequel, focusing on love and redemption rather than pure revenge. Watching the bond form between the two leads is still captivating, and the updated facial animations add a new layer of intensity to every scene. It is a top-shelf showcase for what the PS5 can do visually. When it comes to the action, it is weighty and deliberate. You don't have the prone crawling from the second game, but the environments are tighter and designed perfectly for this style of stealth survival. The gameplay modifiers are a blast to mess around with, giving you infinite ammo or explosive arrows if you just want to blow off steam. It transforms the tension into a cathartic rampage. I also appreciate how the 3D audio and haptics work together to pull you into the world. It might feel inessential to some who played the remaster, but for solo players, this is undeniably the best way to play a modern classic. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. To me, this is what a childhood dream looks like when it grows up. Stepping out into the grasslands for the first time is a jaw-dropping moment, revealing a world that feels massive, vibrant, and worth fighting for. It's not just a retread of the 1997 classic. It is a sprawling reimagining that fills every corner with new life. The sheer scale is intimidating at first, but once you start peeling back the layers of optional activities, it becomes addicting. Seeing Aerith and Tifa bond, or watching Barrett grapple with his past, adds a level of emotional depth that the low-poly original could only hint at. It is a messy, beautiful, and unforgettable journey. The combat system is a total masterclass in hybrid design. It takes the action RPG blend from Remake and dials it up with synergy abilities that let your party team up for flashy, cinematic attacks. You aren't just mashing buttons, you are orchestrating a symphony of violence, switching between Cloud's heavy hits and Yuffie's lightning-fast ninjutsu. The enemy variety forces you to use every tool in your kit, from materia loadouts to summons. Sure, the ending gets a bit convoluted with its timeline shenanigans, and some minigames drag on too long, but the core loop is so satisfying that I honestly didn't care. It is a massive RPG that demands your time and rewards every second of it. Resident Evil 4. If you want to know what a perfect action game looks like in 2025, just look at the way this game handles its escalation. You start off fighting farmers with pitchforks, and before you know it, you are battling regenerating monstrosities in a high-tech lab. The variety is insane. The story has been tightened up significantly, cutting the fat to deliver a narrative that hits hard and moves fast. Ashley is much less of a burden this time around, making the escort sections feel like genuine teamwork rather than a chore. It captures the spirit of the original while looking absolutely breathtaking. The controls have finally caught up to modern standards, and the difference is night and day. Being able to move and shoot changes the entire flow of combat, turning Leon into a precise killing machine. The new knife parry mechanic is the real star, letting you deflect chainsaw attacks in a spark-filled display of skill that feels incredibly satisfying. Enemy variety is relentless, constantly forcing you to change your tactics, while the merchant's updated trade-in system encourages you to experiment with every gun in the arsenal. It is a non-stop thrill ride that grabs you by the throat. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. This game beat me into the dirt until I learned to play by its rules, and I honestly loved every second of the lesson. Sekiro ditches the RPG grinding for a streamlined action experience set in a gorgeous, blood-soaked Japan. You play as the one-armed wolf, a disgraced warrior on a mission of redemption. The atmosphere is thick with mystery, shifting from historical battlegrounds to divine realms filled with giant snakes and ghost monks. It balances beautiful serenity with some of the most stressful encounters in gaming history. The visual design is top tier, making every new area a treat to explore. Gameplay here is a high-speed dance of death. You have to unlearn everything you know about other action games because dodging will often get you killed. Instead, you deflect massive attacks with your katana, creating a spark-filled spectacle that looks straight out of a movie. The posture system is brilliant, forcing you to stay aggressive and overwhelm enemies rather than chipping away at health bars. Stealth is finally a viable option too, letting you thin out the herd before engaging the big bads. It is intense, rewarding, and undeniably one of the best action games ever made. Titanfall 2. If you want to feel like a total badass, then you have to play this game. Titanfall 2 takes the acrobatic action of the original and adds a world-class campaign that is full of surprises. Every level introduces a new mechanic that keeps the gameplay fresh from start to finish. The bond between the pilot and the Titan is surprisingly emotional, and it makes every battle feel personal. You really feel the scale of the world when you're jumping off a cliff and landing right inside your massive mech. The gunplay is crisp, and the weapons have a great sci-fi weight to them. Chaining together slides and wall runs makes you feel like you're playing a high-speed rhythm game. In multiplayer, the Titans no longer have regenerating shields, which makes every engagement much more tactical. You have to be smart about when to push and when to retreat. The progression system is generous and constantly rewards you with new skins and gear. It is a rare sequel that improves on every single part of the original vision. Uncharted 4. Most games struggle to balance spectacle with story, but this game makes it look easy. You start off thinking it is just one last job for Nathan Drake, but it quickly becomes a deep dive into what makes these characters tick. The writing is sharp, funny, and surprisingly poignant. The introduction of the Jeep allows for wider exploration, giving you a sense of freedom that previous linear entries lacked. It is a technical marvel that runs beautifully, showcasing the power of the PlayStation hardware with every frame. The gameplay is smoother than it has ever been. The addition of the grappling hook opens up combat arenas, letting you swing into action like a movie star or flank enemies from above. I love the new stealth options, which finally let you ghost through encounters if you are patient enough. The pacing stumbles a bit in the third act. It drags on longer than necessary, but when the set pieces hit, they hit hard. The car chase in Madagascar is easily one of the best moments in gaming history. It is a fitting, beautiful end to Nathan Drake's saga. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Most open worlds feel like big, empty sandboxes, but this one feels like a real place with real history. The narrative focuses on the search for Ciri, but the real magic is in the little moments along the way. You might stumble upon a village plagued by a ghost, or get roped into a political assassination plot in a major city. The dialogue is sharp, funny, and incredibly well acted. I love how the game respects your intelligence, rarely holding your hand or pointing a big arrow at the solution. It trusts you to figure things out and deal with the fallout of your decisions. The gameplay loop is a perfect mix of preparation and action. You don't just run in swinging, you have to read the bestiary, brew the right oils, and equip the correct bombs to take down specific monsters. Combat is a deadly dance of swordplay and magic signs that feels responsive and satisfying. I love that you actually have to act like a detective, using your Witcher senses to track prey across swamps and forests. Plus, there is Gwent, a card game so addictive I spent more time playing it than saving the world. It is a masterpiece that demands your attention. Alan Wake 2. Remedy has officially taken the gloves off to create the scariest and most visually stunning game in their entire catalog. Alan Wake 2 delivers a story that is totally unhinged, bouncing between grounded police work in Bright Falls and psychological torture in The Dark Place. The visual fidelity here is next level. The lighting, the rain, the faces. It is pure eye candy that sets a new bar for the industry. I have to mention the We Sing level, which is quite possibly the coolest sequence I have ever played in a video game. It balances pure horror with moments of absurd humor that only this studio could pull off. The gameplay shifts hard into survival horror, and it fits the vibe perfectly. You aren't running and gunning anymore. You are scraping by with barely enough ammo to survive. Saga's mind place mechanic is a standout, letting you piece together clues on a caseboard to deduce the truth, which makes you feel like a genuine detective. On Alan's side, you rewrite reality in real time using plot points and a magical lamp to change the environment. It is slow, deliberate, and incredibly tense. The combat has a heavy, satisfying crunch to it, forcing you to use light to weaken enemies before finishing them off. It is one that sticks with you. Silent Hill 2 Remake. Everyone was worried about this remake, but it delivers on every single front. The psychological horror is dialed up to 11. James is not a hero but a broken man, and the game makes you feel that weight in every step. The narrative explores guilt and punishment in a way that feels raw and uncomfortable. The new voice acting is top tier and brings a new layer of depth to iconic scenes. Exploring the apartments and hospitals feels claustrophobic, and the lighting engine does some heavy lifting to keep you on edge. It is a masterpiece of mood. Combat is no longer just a clunky mess you have to tolerate. It is tense and scrappy. You have to dodge and weave and manage your ammo because resources are scarce. The enemy design is still pure nightmare fuel, but now they move in ways that are genuinely unsettling. Boss fights have been reimagined to be actual battles rather than just bullet sponges. The sound design deserves a special shout-out because the industrial clanking and wet footsteps are terrifying. It balances the old-school survival vibes with smooth modern controls perfectly. It is one that sticks with you. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Machine Games took a huge risk going first-person, but it pays off big time. You really feel like you are wearing the hat and leather jacket. The story sits perfectly between Raiders and Last Crusade and captures that classic matinee energy. Troy Baker disappears into the role and sounds exactly like a young Harrison Ford. The locations are stunning and range from the Vatican to the snowy Himalayas. It looks like a high-budget movie set where every prop tells a story. The cutscenes pull back to third person smoothly to show off Indian action. It is a love letter to the films that respects the character. The action focuses on hand-to-hand combat, and it absolutely slaps. You aren't a super soldier, so you have to block and dodge and use your surroundings. Smashing a bottle over a head or throwing a wrench keeps the fights feeling desperate and messy. The whip mechanics are intuitive for both combat and traversal. You can pull enemies towards you for a quick combo or zip up to a ledge to escape. The gunplay is there, but ammo is scarce, which pushes you to use your fists and your brain. It creates a satisfying loop of puzzle solving and punching. It is a wild ride from start to finish. Horizon Zero Dawn. It is rare to see a game that feels this fresh and original. Horizon Zero Dawn presents a world where nature has reclaimed the ruins of our civilization and massive machines behave like wild animals. The visual design is top tier with vibrant jungles and snowy mountains that beg to be explored. Unraveling the mystery of Project Zero Dawn kept me hooked all the way through. The contrast between the primitive tribes and the advanced technology creates a vibe that is totally unique. It feels like a high-budget sci-fi movie that you get to control. Gameplay is a crunchy mix of stealth and explosive action. The bow combat is some of the best in the business. You feel the weight of every draw and the impact of every hit. I love how you have to target specific components to disable attacks or drop heavy weapons you can use yourself. The rope caster is a game changer because it lets you tie down massive enemies to get a clean shot. Stealth is also a viable option for thinning out the herd before the chaos starts. It is a satisfying loop of hunting and upgrading that is hard to put down. The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Some games fade away, but this one refuses to die for a reason. You step into the boots of the Dragonborn and the world immediately opens up in a way that feels overwhelming. The sheer scale of the map is impressive even by modern standards. You can climb the highest peak to talk to graybeards or dive into Dwemer ruins that look like steampunk nightmares. The environmental storytelling is top tier, with every cave and shack telling a small tragedy if you look close enough. It balances the epic, save the world narrative with quiet moments of just existing in a breathing fantasy land. When swords start swinging, the action is simple, but satisfying. You can dual-wield axes like a Viking berserker or snipe enemies from a mile away. The stealth archer build is a meme for a reason, because the thwip sound of a critical arrow hit is incredibly crunchy. Looting is addictive as you scour dungeons for magical weapons and dragon bones. Crafting powerful gear breaks the game in the best way possible, allowing you to one-shot giants. The glitches are part of the charm now, and seeing a mammoth fall from the sky just adds to the experience. It is pure RPG comfort food. Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. Most stealth games force you down a hallway, but this one drops you in a desert and says good luck. The opening hour in the hospital is pure survival horror that sets a terrifying tone before opening up into a massive military simulation. Venom Snake is a stoic ghost, and the story themes of language and loss hit hard despite the unfinished ending. The world feels dynamic with sandstorms and rain changing the visibility in real time. It captures the tension of being behind enemy lines perfectly. Action is where this title absolutely shines. The enemies actually learn from how you play, so if you use gas grenades, they start wearing masks. This pushes you to research new gear and change your loadout constantly. I appreciate the freedom to go non-lethal or full Rambo depending on the mission. Calling in your helicopter for air support while you escape on a walker gear is a rush. The depth of the weapon customization is staggering and lets you build exactly what you need. It offers a level of polish that is undeniable. It is a ride worth taking. Detroit Become Human. Quantic Dream finally nailed the formula with this sci-fi thriller. You control 3 androids in a near-future Detroit where machines are starting to feel emotions. The production value is absolutely insane, with facial capture that looks photorealistic. You can see every micro-expression on Connor's face as he interrogates a suspect. The story tackles heavy themes of slavery and civil rights, and while it can be blunt, it still hits hard emotionally. I was genuinely stressed out making decisions because I knew my favorite characters could die permanently. It feels like directing a high-budget movie where the script changes based on your mood. The gameplay is mostly quick-time events and exploration, but it feels tactile and tense. Connor's detective sections are the highlight because you reconstruct crime scenes in augmented reality. Pressing buttons to dodge attacks or climb buildings gets your heart racing. The real star is the flowchart system that shows you every possible path you could have taken. It encourages you to replay chapters just to see how wildly things can change. I love that failing a sequence doesn't end the game, but just steers the story in a darker direction. It is a narrative achievement that demands to be replayed. Dying Light 2. Parkour and zombies usually don't mix this well, but Techland nailed it again. The city of Villador is a massive playground of decay that feels distinct from the first game. You move from tight slums to massive skyscrapers that touch the clouds. The modern Dark Ages vibe is cool, and seeing vegetation take over the ruins is pure eye candy. The story is a bit generic with the search for your sister, but the choices you make actually shift the environment. Siding with the peacekeepers puts car traps on the streets while the survivors give you zip lines. It makes the world feel reactive and alive. Gameplay is all about flow and momentum. Running across rooftops feels buttery smooth, and the animations are incredibly fluid. The new paraglider opens up the verticality in a huge way and lets you soar over the infected. Combat is weighty and brutal. Drop-kicking a bandit off a roof never gets old, and the gore system is delightfully gross. Nighttime is still terrifying, but a bit more manageable now. The loot loop is addictive as you upgrade your weapons with electricity and fire mods. It offers a rush that few games can match. Mad Max. The wasteland in Mad Max feels like a living, breathing thing that wants you dead. I was immediately struck by how gorgeous the desolation looks. The endless stretches of sand and rust create a vibe that is hostile yet inviting. When a sandstorm rolls in, it is a jaw-dropping spectacle of lightning and debris. I have rarely seen weather effects this intense. Max himself looks weary, and the story matches that tone. It is a straight shot of revenge and gasoline. You build the magnum opus from a scrap heap into a death machine. I found myself just stopping to look at the skyboxes because the art direction is top tier. Gameplay focuses on two things and nails them both. Hand-to-hand fighting is brutal and visceral. You are not a martial artist, you are a brawler. I enjoyed the sheer weight of the attacks. A drop kick feels like it could shatter a rib cage. Then you get behind the wheel, and it becomes a different beast. Vehicle combat is chaotic fun. Ramming side by side with war boys sends metal flying everywhere. The physics are fantastic. I spent hours just hunting convoys because the car destruction is so spectacular. The progression system keeps you hooked as you turn your car into a tank. It delivers constant dopamine hits. Sleeping Dogs. Wei Shen's story is one of the best police dramas I have played. The narrative pulls you in immediately with its high stakes and complex characters. I found myself caring about the gangsters I was supposed to be arresting. The visual fidelity of the city is shocking considering its age. The bustling streets and the sound of Cantonese shouting create a thick atmosphere. The rain effects are still some of the best around. I loved just driving around listening to the radio. The world feels alive and dangerous. It captures the grittiness of Hong Kong cinema perfectly. Martial arts combat here is buttery smooth and brutal. I love that it focuses on hand-to-hand fighting rather than just shooting. You feel every kick and punch connect. The environmental takedowns are the star of the show. Smashing a thug's head into an air conditioner or tossing them into a dumpster feels crunchy and satisfying. The driving mechanics are arcade-style fun. I enjoyed ramming other cars off the road during high-speed chases. The parkour system keeps the movement fluid. You vault over tables and run up walls with ease. It is a seamless mix of action movie tropes that just works. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Sandfall Interactive has crafted a world that looks unlike anything else on the market. I was immediately drawn in by the sheer style of the UI and the character animations. The visuals are crisp, and the art direction is bold. You explore a world that defies logic with floating structures and impossible geometry. The narrative hook of the paintress erasing humanity is terrifying. I felt a real sense of urgency in the exploration. The voice acting brings the cast to life with performances that feel grounded. It is a stunning display of graphical power. The environments tell a story all on their own. Battles feel heavy and impactful rather than abstract. I enjoyed how the camera zooms in to show the brutal impact of every spell and sword swing. The mechanics blend action inputs with menu selection perfectly. You feel in control of the outcome. I spent time mastering the timing for the defensive maneuvers because it makes a huge difference. The difficulty feels fair, but punishing if you get lazy. I love the feeling of pulling off a perfect rotation of skills. The progression system lets you build your party in interesting ways. It delivers a combat loop that remains exciting hour after hour. Hellblade. Senua's journey into Viking hell is terrifying and personal. I have rarely played a game that handles psychological horror with this much care. The hallucinations are not just jump scares, they are part of the narrative fabric. I felt a deep empathy for Senua as she battled her inner demons. The sound design is the star here. The Furies whisper doubts and warnings that actually help you in gameplay. It is a genius mechanic. The environment shifts and warps around you in real time. It looks jaw-dropping on modern hardware. The story is linear, but it packs a serious punch. Combat feels heavy and desperate. You do not have a health bar or a tutorial. You just draw your sword and fight. I loved how every strike felt like a struggle for survival. The sword impacts are crunchy and satisfying. Blocking a massive giant just before he crushes you gives a serious adrenaline rush. The puzzles involve finding runes in the environment, and I found them to be a nice break from the tension. The pacing is tight and focused. I felt exhausted by the end, but in the best way possible. It is a focused experience that respects your time. A Plague Tale: Innocence. I was not prepared for how heavy this story would hit me. Amisha is a fantastic protagonist who is forced to grow up way too fast. The world is built with a level of detail that is jaw-dropping. Walking through villages piled high with bodies sets a tone that is dark and uncompromising. The lighting engine is a showstopper here. The way firelight dances on the wet cobblestones creates pure eye candy. I felt the desperation in every chapter. The narrative pushes you forward with a momentum that refuses to slow down. It is a linear journey, but the set pieces are so spectacular that I did not mind. The historical setting feels grounded and gritty. Gameplay here relies heavily on stealth and smarts, rather than brute force. I loved using the sling to manipulate the environment. The snap of the leather and the crunch of a rock hitting a helmet feels incredibly tactile. You are constantly managing light and shadow to survive. I found the puzzle mechanics involving the rats to be clever and stressful. Lighting a torch to part a sea of vermin never gets old. It feels buttery smooth to sneak past the Inquisition guards while chaos erupts around you. The crafting system is simple but effective. You scavenge for resources to build better ammo. It keeps the tension high. Prey. Waking up on Talos, I felt like stepping into a beautiful lie. The station features a neo-deco aesthetic that looks absolutely stunning. I stopped constantly to admire the gold trim and the lavish furniture before everything went to hell. The paranoia here is real. Any object in the room could be an alien waiting to kill you. I found myself smacking chairs with my wrench just to be safe. The atmosphere is thick with dread and mystery. Visually, it is top tier with lighting that makes the shadows feel dangerous. The sound design plays tricks on your mind. I heard footsteps when no one was there. It creates a vibe that is tense and isolating. Combat offers a level of creativity that slaps hard. You do not just shoot enemies, you outsmart them. The glue cannon is easily one of the best tools in gaming. I loved freezing a phantom in place and then shattering it with a heavy wrench swing. The sound of the enemies breaking is crunchy and satisfying. Crafting is a huge part of the loop. I threw all my junk into the recycler and watched it turn into neat little cubes. It is oddly addictive. The movement feels grounded, but the zero-G sections let you float freely. Every encounter feels like a puzzle you solve with violence and science. Stray. The world looks completely different when you are 12 inches tall. I was immediately hooked by the sheer scale of the cyber city in Stray. You navigate a decaying underground metropolis populated by robots who mimic human life in the most charming ways. The neon signs reflected in the puddles create a visual style that is top-tier eye candy. I felt a genuine connection to the little orange protagonist. The way the cat moves, stretches, and reacts to water feels incredibly lifelike. Blue 12 Studio nailed the animation. The atmosphere is thick with mystery and a quiet sadness. I loved exploring the rooftops and looking down at the grimy streets below. It is a stunning example of environmental storytelling. Gameplay switches between relaxed exploration and high-stakes stealth. I appreciated how the game breaks up the pacing. 1 minute you are napping on a robot's chest, and the next you are sprinting for your life. The stealth sections are tense. You have to creep past security drones, and the feedback when you get spotted is startling. I mashed the meow button constantly because it just feels good. The haptics make the purring feel real in your hands. I enjoyed the verticality of the levels. You see a pipe and you know it is your path. It delivers a seamless adventure that respects your time. The controls are simple, but the feedback is heavy. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I was not ready for how hard this game would hit me emotionally. This game tells a story about family and sacrifice that feels genuine. The opening sequence alone had me choked up. Visually, it is jaw-dropping. The 2.5D graphics have a depth that makes the world feel vast. I loved the little details like how the foliage reacts as you brush past it. The lighting engine creates moods that shift from warm to terrifying in an instant. It is a stunning display of artistic talent. The world design is interconnected and smart. I felt a real drive to uncover every hidden corner of the map. The gameplay loop creates a rhythm that is hard to put down. You mix combat and movement into a seamless dance. I found the bash mechanic to be one of the best in gaming history. Using an enemy projectile to launch yourself higher feels buttery smooth. The weapons pack a punch. I loved the heavy impact of the hammer, which sends enemies flying. The movement abilities layer on top of each other until you are practically flying. I enjoyed the trials that test your speed against other players. The controls are snappy and precise. Every death feels like a lesson rather than a punishment. This is a platformer that fires on all cylinders. Celeste. The sheer heart in this game is what sets it apart from the crowd. I went in expecting a hard game and found a touching story about self-acceptance. The relationship between Madeline and her dark side is written with nuance. I loved the way the mountain feels like a character itself. The pixel art style is gorgeous and fluid. The way the hair color changes to indicate your dash status is a smart visual cue that looks great. The soundtrack slaps hard. It matches the gameplay beat for beat. I felt the tension rise with the tempo. It creates a vibe that pushes you to try just one more time. The world is packed with hidden rooms and secrets that I loved finding. Gameplay in Celeste is a masterclass in design. You start with a simple dash, but the game stretches that mechanic in wild directions. I enjoyed the climbing stamina management, which adds a layer of strategy to the platforming. The flow state you achieve in the later levels is incredible. You chain moves together without thinking. I found the boss chases with Betaline to be intense adrenaline rushes. The feedback is top tier. Dashing through a crystal refills your stamina with a satisfying ping. The difficulty is high, but the assist mode makes it accessible if you need it. It delivers a platforming experience that is tight, responsive, and unforgettable. Red Dead Redemption 2. Arthur Morgan's journal gives you a look into a man who knows his time is up. I was hooked by the emotional weight of the story. The transition from the mountains to the industrial city of St. Denis is jarring and brilliant. The smoke and noise of the city contrast perfectly with the quiet plains. I found the world to be packed with secrets that do not appear on the map. You have to look for them. The graphics are still unmatched. The fur on the animals and the texture of the wood looks incredible. It is pure eye candy. The score builds tension and emotion perfectly. I felt a deep sadness watching the gang fall apart. It is a stunning achievement. The gameplay feels heavy and deliberate. You do not just tap a button to loot, you watch Arthur physically pick up the item. I loved the tactile nature of cleaning my guns. The oiling and polishing makes the weapons feel real. The Deadeye system turns chaotic gunfights into cinematic moments of violence. The sound of a repeater cycling around is incredibly crunchy. I found the hunting loop to be weirdly addictive. Tracking an animal and getting a clean kill feels rewarding. Riding your horse creates a bond that matters. The controls are complex, but they ground you in the world. It is a masterpiece of design. So that's it for today's video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. Don't forget to click the bell icon to get notified when I upload new content. If you have any thoughts or suggestions, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And check out these other videos you might like. See you in the next one.